So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us John Lugsden, who's the director at Rogers McHugh Recruitment. So, firstly, John, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a recruitment agency that specialises in the construction and facilities management sector. We've been trading since June 2020. So uh, good year to get started. As lockdown hit, we were planning to gear up and set up a recruitment agency.
Yep.
Um, and we do temp and permanent recruitment throughout the whole of the UK. So whether that be somebody for a day, or a construction director or a senior director looking at a new work stream, and a strategic hire. We do everything in between. We've got two offices presently, one in York and one in Manchester. And the plan is that we will continue to increase our footprint, and we're currently operating out of those offices, supporting the whole of the UK. But yeah, the plan is that we would
Wow.
regionalise it as well, moving forward with more offices.
Brilliant, brilliant. And what would make a really great client for you? Anyone that might be watching, what are the best people that you find you serve best?
People that value us as a partner, to be quite honest, because we deal with everything from an SME,
Yeah,
right the way up to some of the UK's biggest companies, and again, everything in between.
yeah,
But for us, it's about partnerships. It's about building relationships with our clients and being able to solve a problem, add value to their supply chain, and really become an extension of their business,
yeah.
selling their business to potential candidates and the marketplace as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. That makes sense. So if we look backwards for a little bit, and perhaps you could tell us a little about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, so business is always something that I've had an interest in. I think uh, people must get fed up of me watching The Apprentice and me telling them that I can do it better, and they're all uh, they're all no good, and I know how to do it better. So I've always had an interest in business, and I kind of fell into recruitment. Really, I was in sales. I got into I left university. So I did accounting and finance at university. Left university, got into sales, and kind of felt I needed a career for myself. And that's when sort of recruitment reared its ugly head. So I worked for the same company for about 10 years, before deciding to go it alone. So I had quite a good grounding in
Yeah,
recruitment, prior to, so it was the obvious next step. If you want a business, do
yeah.
something that you know a bit about, really. So that was the next step.
Brilliant. I think Michael Gerber in his book talks about having what he calls an entrepreneurial seizure. Um,
Absolutely.
and he says you start working for an idiot and you start working for a lunatic, i.e. yourself. Uh,
Yourself, absolutely.
so when you were growing up, was this what you saw yourself doing, or did you have other plans and goals at that point?
I mean, when I was growing up, I'd have done any business, any business going. I wouldn't necessarily say I was selling sweets on the tuck shop like a lot of people would say, but I was charging people to do the homework for them and things like that. So I was
Brilliant.
always keen to earn some extra money, and I always had that bit of flair. And even like my old man was in insurance sales, and every week I remember when I was like primary school age, every week he'd come home with the leaderboards and I'd highlight where he was, and so I've always had that sort of competitive spirit in me as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, clearly you could. It reminds me of our founder Brad. He says I've always been an entrepreneur. He said I was first an entrepreneur at the age of 6 when I sold my Christmas presents to my brothers, and then he said but then I realised I was a true entrepreneur at the age of 7 when I started to rent my Christmas presents to my brothers because I made more money and I got my presents back.
And he got to keep them.
Absolutely, yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. So obviously, you mentioned you set the business up around the sort of COVID era, which obviously was a challenge. Alongside that, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome so far?
Um, you're not probably not going to like this given the fact that we're a recruitment agency, but recruitment's pretty challenging. Um, Finding people for us as a business, especially when you're in the early days. I mean, I've been quite lucky.
Yeah,
I've been able to bring people into the business that I've worked with in the past.
yeah,
But as a startup, hiring people that want that see the value, that see the benefit of joining a startup is obviously a challenge. And it's kind of marrying that up with the organic growth as well. So not wanting to, I try and run very quickly. It's obviously sometimes you need to rein it in and think, right, well, we don't want to cause issues further down the line. So are we going at the right pace? Do we need to rein it in a little bit? Are we going too fast? Are we not going fast enough?
Yeah.
And construction over the last sort of 12 months, 18 months has been a challenging market. There's been a couple of big players that have gone into administration and gone out of business. So the market last year was a challenge. But we're still here, we're still fighting, and we actually built more last year than the year before. So
Well
it's a
done.
challenging market, but we're still doing okay.
Well done. Well done. Brilliant. That's great to hear. And what would you say the biggest learnings you've got about running and growing a business?
Dealing with people. I think sometimes how you sort of spoke to colleagues or dealt with colleagues because I was in a managerial position at my previous role. It's slightly different. You've got to be a little bit more nuanced when you run the business,
Yeah.
and just sort of understanding different people want different sort of ways of being managed and trying to get that right as well. It's a constant challenge for me. And something that I mean, I'm quite big in sort of personal development and trying to improve myself. I've just finished. I don't know whether you've read it. What got you here won't get you there.
Marshall Goldsmith. I've actually trained with Marshall Goldsmith. Um,
Okay,
yeah, 3 times, funnily enough. Yeah,
yeah.
a wonderful man, an absolute wonderful.
So obviously you'll know that book's all about working out where you can improve for the others around you. So that's now my next challenge is making sure that I implement some of that.
It absolutely so. And even the title just makes total sense, doesn't it? That we have to develop and change, and
Yeah,
ourselves as leaders and our management team as managers. If we stand still, then we're toast ultimately. So
yeah, absolutely.
we've got to keep growing and changing. Wonderful. No, I think he's as I say, he's a lovely bloke. I think he's literally just retiring right now. He's amazing.
Okay.
Bloke. He's decided to give make public access to all his materials, everything he's done, so that
Right.
he wants to help as many people as he can. He's an amazing bloke. And I was going to say better, but I think he has got the most business books. I think he's got about 5 business books in like the Forbes 100 top business books ever sort of thing. And I think he's got the record for the most. So you're reading a great author there without a shadow of a doubt.
Good.
But and speaking, obviously, he's known to be the world's top executive coach. Is Marshall, and we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you, and what was it about them that was so impactful?
So I'll be honest, I've never actually had a business coach. I've got a running coach at the minute. So I turned 40 last year and said I was going to run the London
Oh,
Marathon. It was a one-off. I didn't get the time I wanted, got the bug a little bit, so
well
wanted
done.
to get to. So yeah, taken on board about 9 months ago a running coach, and I think coaches in general are excellent because they've walked the path that you want to walk. They'll help you avoid the pitfalls, um, but it's accountability as well. You
Yes,
know, if I'm not feeling great, doesn't matter. I've got to go out for a run because he's watching, he's checking my runs, he's got my plan, he knows what I need to be doing. It's that accountability piece that I think is massive in any walk of life, whether it's business or externally from that.
brilliant. Yeah, it's a big one. I always describe what we do as, we don't tell people what to do. We help them find their way through. So we advise, but we help them.
Yeah,
But then, having decided what's going to happen, you're exactly right. We then hold people accountable to do those things that we said we're going to do, that we know are going to make a difference. Uh,
absolutely.
and if we do those two things, then we're definitely on a winner.
On to a winner.
And obviously you into personal development and from that you're coaching and anything. Have you got any favourite quotes or sayings you catch yourself using a lot?
Do I have any famous quotes or saying? Do you know what? I don't know. It used to be, if it is to be, it's up to me. But as you grow a business, you kind of need to learn, and this is one thing that I'm terrible at and need to improve on, the art of delegation.
Yes.
Um, if I get an idea in my head, I pick it up and I run with it.
Yeah.
Probably somebody in the business that's better to do that. And it's probably a task that I don't necessarily need to be involved with as well.
it's a good bit of self-awareness, because I think one thing I often say to people is as we grow a business, a business will naturally, if it's going to grow exponentially. So anything that improves at the same percentage every year is actually on an exponential curve. And I fundamentally believe, and I've seen it in my own businesses and with the businesses I work with, that you can get to a certain level of success with a few good people and sheer blood and guts, i.e., we can make our success based
Yeah,
on how hard we work and maybe a small team around us. But once we've hit the limit, the limit and resource of time, we
yeah,
become the limit to the next stage of growth.
yeah, yeah,
Which is, why perhaps what got you here won't get you there is so relevant,
absolutely.
but for where you are, and but the challenge with that, John, is it's a fundamental mindset change of looking at what I do next rather than what I'm going to get other people to do next. If
Yeah, that's a valid point.
And
Yeah,
that's, and as you say, it's so difficult not to go, if it's to be, it's up to me, and you go, if it's to be, I need to get some people on it, sort of thing.
absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
I work with, no, sorry, I work with, um I went to an investment event a couple of years ago, and they had a lady called Jennifer Byrne who she was being interviewed rather than speaking. She's the one of the ex CTOs at Microsoft. So she worked
Right.
directly
Okay.
with Bill Gates, I think, at one point, and very bright lady, amazing person. And one thing she said, which I found fascinating, especially for the sort of business owners that I work with, SME business owners, is that she said in the US, when they recruit C-suite executives, the CEOs or CTOs, whatever it would be, they actively test them on their ability not to do things.
Right. Okay.
And it was like, oh my God. And I could see like a load of people in the room going, hold on, did she actually say not? And it's that point about, it's not the first point of call, I'll go and run around and make it happen. It's like, who do I pick the
Who
phone
can do
to?
that?
Who do I email? And I thought that was fascinating, especially for the owners of growing SME businesses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a fascinating thing. And obviously you've already mentioned Marshall's book. Is there any other favorite books on success, personal development, business that you can you read or you plan to read?
So there is a book called Who Not What. So
Yes,
that's on my
great.
that's on the to-do list.
There's a theme here, isn't
Um,
there?
Absolutely. But I quite enjoy Ride of a Lifetime that Bob Iger,
Ah,
who was the CEO of Disney.
yes,
Um, so I read that. That was a really good book because in that he was talking all. He was sort of the CEO really when they were buying Marvel
yes.
um, all the other sort of the Pixar off
It's
Steve
yeah,
Jobs. That was quite an interesting book. Um, Obviously, I read quite a few recruitment books as well. But anything really that's related to sort of leadership or business
brilliant.
um, is a winner for me. Yeah,
Brilliant. It's that that self development is so key, because as you've already identified, it is, we need to change and grow as the business grows. For the business to grow,
yeah.
we do. Otherwise, it's going to be limited by our own knowledge and beliefs. That makes
You
perfect sense.
kind of
So
become the glass ceiling for the business then if you don't.
100%, 100%. I was with somebody the other day. It was quite funny, and I was talking about this, and it's a fast growth business, but it's quite small. And we were happily sitting outside having a coffee, and somebody was and it was someone was taking deliveries, and I almost had to stop one of the owners jumping up. He went, can I give you a hand? And I'm going, no, that's his job. Your job is here doing strategy with me. He needs to, and
He needs to do that.
it's not they're not willing to. I think the key thing is it's not a willingness to. And ultimately, if there's an emergency, we'll probably always roll up our sleeves in the short term.
And get stuck in. Yeah,
But the challenge I always say to people, if our business is a ship, um, if there's an emergency, we might go and help them pull the sails up, because we've got to
yeah.
change the course very quickly. But while we're doing that, the people we're next to are going, well, who's actually steering it?
Steering the ship. Yeah,
It's like, it's all very well you go, no, well, I'm doing a good job, but if the wheel's spinning round and we're going off course, that's probably not as helpful. So it is changing those things. Um,
absolutely.
and obviously you're a big learner. What have you learned about yourself so far in your journey?
There needs to be a little bit more patient, I think, from time to time. that I'm probably a little bit too over competitive, and that I need to trust people to do the job that I'm paying them to do as well, and not jumping in all the time.
Brilliant.
I've not mastered it yet, but I'm working on it.
It is. I mean, I'll be perfect. I work, with lots of very driven business people, and it is, and for a big bunch of them, it is a very big challenge. But it's an overcut. It's a challenge it's so amazing that by breaking through, you just break up into this whole new world of great. I've got an unlimited. I can scale this business unlimited now because I just need to find the right people to grow it, and
Yeah,
my job is
absolutely.
just leadership, leadership and management and mentorship. And it's quite an amazing thing to see that breakthrough, and then the businesses develop and grow. So that's wonderful. And so looking forward a little bit, John. What does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
So the challenge is that we want to grow significantly.
Yeah,
We're about 7 or 8 million turnover business at the minute. We're looking at seriously ramping that up. Like I
brilliant.
say, in terms of a footprint, we want to have multiple offices throughout the UK,
Yeah,
so that we're in every region.
yeah,
And there's a lot of clients will say to us, we're limited by our location to a degree. Some clients will say you're not local to us, so we're not going to work with you. But sort of longer term, really want to be diversifying outside of construction and FM, and recruit for multiple sectors,
yeah.
because you then move away from the whims of the construction
Yes,
economy, if you like.
yeah. That
Um,
makes sense.
and we want to look at recruiting into other territories as well. We've
Brilliant,
dabbled a little bit in America, and longer term, we'd look at getting that started up again.
brilliant. Very exciting, exciting times, I can see.
Absolutely, yeah. I certainly hope so. And like I say, I want people to come on the journey with me, and I want us to all be playing a part. And hopefully, people can see that there is an exciting time ahead. But obviously, it's about getting it right now as well, and making sure that we're profitable in the short term.
Absolutely, and that is probably one of the biggest challenges of growth and fast growth is for most businesses, growth costs money, costs cash,
Yeah,
and it's managing that growth and not allowing, and finding ways that again the cash doesn't limit growth, because we found again is that can be the biggest challenge and limiting factor and therefore risk factor to businesses, but I think there's lots of ways to mitigate that as much as possible. Um,
absolutely.
and I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now, John.
I think you've got to have a passion for it.
Yeah,
It's it it's you kind of trade your 9 to 5 for a 9 to 9 in a
yeah,
lot of cases, certainly in the short term. So I certainly think you've got to have a passion for it, and you've got to really, if it's going to be, because again, I never set up Rogers McHugh with the intention of it being a lifestyle business. If you want to do that, absolutely, more power to your elbow.
yeah,
But know what you want the business to be before you start.
yeah,
I would say is probably quite key, because otherwise you are a little bit like the ship, going back to your analogy, without the driver. If you don't know where you want to get to, it's very difficult to get there. And you want a lifestyle business, but you find yourself starting to employ people. You're then accountable to them people. It's not quite the lifestyle business that you wanted. So I'd say you've got to be in it for you've got to be driven. You've got to be passionate about what you're doing,
yeah.
or about business in general. But yeah, you've got to know what you want it to be as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, very well. Yeah, I mean the analogy follows in the boat, if you like, is that we need to know where we're headed. Um,
Absolutely.
and then continue to review that because a boat will can get blown off course, the tides, and then decide, am I still headed, just because I'm heading in the same direction doesn't mean I'm still going to get to the same outcome. So do I
No,
need to
absolutely.
adjust, trim, change course, or accept that the new direction is actually where I want to go,
Where
which
you want to go?
sometimes is the case. Uh, and if you started again, John, is there anything significant looking back that you do differently?
No, I don't think there is. Listen, it's a learning curve.
Yep.
We've made mistakes along the way. Um, but no, I don't think I'd do anything vastly different. I think the one thing I'd probably do is start a little bit sooner, if anything. Um, but
I,
by the same token, if you do that, you don't have the experience that you build up, so it is a little bit tricky.
it's a funny question. I mean, I always find it's an interesting question, and of all the answers I get, probably that one is the most common of starting a bit earlier. But I do think it's a bit of a this sort of sliding doors idea. If I'd have changed anything significant, I might not be here, you know,
Yeah,
and I might not have learned what I've learned to get here. So it is a funny one, but no, sometimes there's some particular thing that somebody identifies as that can be useful. And finally, Jenny, is there what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
what other than knuckle down at school and don't mess around?
Yeah, but that's no fun.
Um, do you know what? It'd have probably been don't go to university
Right.
because I went to university to be an accountant and found out that I didn't really like it. And it's kind of 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously helps to a degree running the business because if I look at a set of accounts, I can understand them. But it's kind of delayed me 4 years.
Yeah.
Kind of could have got the job I got leaving university when I'd done my A levels. So um, probably would be that, to be honest.
It's an interesting point, isn't it? It's and also when you look at the costs involved of going to university now, which I was lucky enough not to really incur. It must be quite hard. My daughter, my eldest has gone through college. She's now got a great job with the civil service. Youngest has taken a year out, and we thought may never go to college. She's chosen to do that, but I would have supported her either way. I think there's so many different ways to work to learn and develop a career,
Absolutely.
especially now. And as you say, you're getting in effect a 4 year head start on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So fascinating, brilliant. Well, John, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been really fascinating, really refreshing to see to hear about where you are, where you're headed, and clearly I've no doubt you're going to get there, and be great to swing by in another 6, 12 months and just see
Absolutely, yeah.
where we are with that, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But for now, thank you so much.
No, really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.